out there? How's everyone doing today? Today we're going to be talking about strategic planning for nonprofits. I am Sabrina Walker Hernandez. I have 25 years of nonprofit experience. I am currently working with several clients, and strategic planning has been a part of the discussion along the way. So a little bit about me. I studied political science and public administration, and I obtained a management and nonprofit certification from Harvard Business School. And again, I've been working in the nonprofit industry for 25 years, and I retired in 2018 as a CEO of the Boys and Girls Clubs in Edinburgh, RGV. So we're going to get started talking about strategic planning process. Again, strategic planning for nonprofits. That's the slide. That's a little bit about me. And the objective today is to develop a process for strategic planning that involves board and staff members to identify and discuss how nonprofit boards add value to the strategic planning process to begin the first step of strategic planning process for your organization. Now, I know we're all busy in a nonprofit world and working on the day-to-day. And so it's kind of a challenge when you start talking about planning. Who has the time? I would say that who doesn't have the time? You have to take the time to plan so that you have some forward motion. So you'll have a plan on where you're going to go next, have your goals or your objectives. So I'm going to take that off the table already, saying there's no time. You have to. It is invaluable for you to go forward and plan, to know about your mission statement, your vision, so your board and your staff and you will have some forward momentum. So let's go ahead and take that off the table. So first of all, you have to assess, is your organization ready to launch a strategic plan process? Let's look at it. Let's assess. Do you have a critical mass of key board members who are excited about and in general agreement on the future of the organization? Are you fairly confident of your cash flow over the next several years? Do board and staff have the time, capacity, and commitment to devote to a rigorous and external facing long-term planning process? Can the board and staff confidently articulate what the nonprofit does and why it matters? Does the organization have the right staff in the right places? Is your support or funder base growing? Is the majority of your board effectively engaged in your nonprofit? And if you can answer yes to these questions, if you can't answer yes to these questions, you may not be ready for the strategic planning process. So really take some time and look at those questions. And if you can't answer yes, you may not be ready. And so this is a good jump off point for you to say, okay, when I can answer yes to all of these questions, then we can start planning our strategic plan. But this is a good foundation for you to even start to look at the process of planning. Okay, what is a strategic plan? A strategic plan is a communication tool for the board of directors, for the staff, for volunteers, funding sources, community representatives. And board involvement leads to the agreement on the mission and the goals, sanction and ownership from all stakeholders. So again, what is a strategic plan? It's a 3 to 5 year plan that defines the business of your nonprofit at all levels. It's a communications tool. It is a management tool. The strategic plan is strategic, is systematic, defines your priorities, and leads to commitment. Now, I will say that you're in defining your priorities, if you're starting the strategic planning process, it's good to narrow it down to just kind of 3 priorities, 3 focus, 3 goals. You don't want to overwhelm yourself. You don't want to overwhelm the board. So maybe narrow it down to 3 focuses on your final plan. The benefits of strategic planning: it integrates issues, problems, and opportunity into one comprehensive planning system, sanctioned by stakeholders who agree on mission and vision. What does that mean? All it means is your board, your staff, they all agree, the CEO, they all agree that we're going to focus our energy around this comprehensive plan, and everybody's on board, and we agree on our mission, and we agree on our vision. We agree on where we're going. And that's everybody that is involved, all your stakeholders. A strategic plan, again, is a management tool for organizations serious about growth. It is going to take you into the future and have for forward movement. So I will say this: planning is a board responsibility. So I have a lot of people that says, I can't get my board to fundraise, and I can't get my board to do this, and I can't get my board to do this. Well, planning is a board responsibility. So imagine having your board sit down and focus in around your strategic plan. It will help you in that fundraising process or getting them on board for those things. Because in this process, you're going to be talking about that, and they're going to be exploring that. It is not a quick, strategic plan is not a quick process. It does take some time. And in taking that time, you're going to be having these conversations about where you want to go. And oftentimes when it says we are growing our organization and we want to go here, we want to go from A to B, that takes resources. And so this conversation is going to oftentimes center around resources. So you want to get your board. It is your board that is responsible for planning. It's also your board that is responsible for securing resources. So this kind of goes hand in hand. The strategic plan model within itself, like I said, it's not a quick process by any means. So there are some phases to strategic planning. So you're going to review your mission. And I will say this, you're going to develop shared vision. You're going to gather data, and you're going to develop strategies. So a mission statement. What is a mission statement? A mission statement is a statement of the organization's purpose or its fundamental reason for existing. I always say the mission statement for me was the reason I got up every morning, because we all know that working in a nonprofit is very hard. It's very challenging. And so my mission statement was my reason for being. It was my reason for getting up every morning and engaging in that nonprofit work. So I will say, some people say, well, we have our mission statement and we've had it for a long time. Well, you inherited that mission statement. Is it still what you're doing? Is it still your reason for existing? So you need to look at that, and the board needs to look at that, and CEO needs to look at that. I would say if you have not looked at your mission statement in the past 5 years, it's time. You need to maybe touch it up. You need to be reviewing it. You need to fine tune it, or you may need to have to rewrite it all together. But again, if you haven't looked at your mission statement in the last 5 years, and it's something that you inherited from a long time ago before you even came along, it might be time for you to kind of look at that again. Again, for me, waking up every day and doing the challenging work of the nonprofit, the mission was very important to me. It was the reason for existing. So it was very critical for that to be a very clear mission statement, to know why I was able to get up. And with my former organization, I memorized that mission statement because it was many of days that I needed to know what that mission was when the challenges and I was in the trenches. The other thing is visioning. So visioning and your vision statement is focusing in on your North Star. You're forming a strategic vision should provide long-term direction. It could be as far-reaching as 100 years or as short as 5 years. It should infuse the organization with a sense of purposeful action. So some of the mission statement, vision statements that we hear now that seem so far-fetched at the time. So we will put a man on the moon before the end of the decade and bring them back. That was President John F. Kennedy. How about this one? A computer on every desk and in every home using great software as an empowering tool. That was Microsoft. So these two statements, they sounded crazy at the time, but now it actually happened. So you just need to make sure your vision serves a unifying focal point for everyone in the organization, like a North Star. It's short, concise, and it talks about the future of your organization. So gathering data. In gathering data, you can have key stakeholder interviews, focus groups, surveys, community forums, SWOT analysis. So it's collecting existing research and information. You can look at previous strategic plan. I am going to get that word right. Strategic plans. You can look at previous strategic plans, summary data from needs assessment of the community, agency-wide budget, output, and outcome data from programs and services, customer satisfaction data, key studies and report. All of these you can use when you're talking about gathering data. You can assess internal and external factors in preparation for change. What agencies is doing what? Those are your strengths. Sharing success across the agency to build morale. How to build on current strengths. Areas for improvement. Those would be considered your weaknesses. Diverse perspectives from stakeholders and buy-in, and possibility for agencies. Those are your opportunities. Those are the areas for growth and change. And then you have some external factors influencing growth, which are threats, being realistic and proactive with strengths and opportunities. So when I say SWOT analysis, that's strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. So develop strategies. This combines everything you learn in your SWOT analysis. Again, SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and applies it to the development of 3 to 4 strategies that either maximize strengths and opportunities or minimize weaknesses and threats. So remember when I said at the top of the video that you're only looking for about 3 goals. That's where we're at. 3 to 4 strategies. When I say strategies and goals, I use those interchangeably. They either maximize your strengths and opportunities or minimizes your weakness and threats. So you're going to have the board vote on those strategies. Then you're going to prepare a work plan, have the board vote on the full plan, and then you're going to implement and monitor. So if we could go back a little bit, there's 4 parts. Again, you're going to be looking at the mission statement. You're going to be looking at the vision statement. You're going to be gathering data. And then you are going to be moving forward after you gather data to actually coming up with your analogies. And so once you do that and you narrow it down to your 3 to 4 strategies, you're going to have the board vote on those strategies. You're going to prepare a work plan, have the board vote on a full plan, and you're going to implement and monitor. So I used the strategic planning process as a CEO of a nonprofit organization to increase the operating budget from $750,000 to $2.5 million in an 8-year period. So when I say that strategic planning is very important, I cannot stress it enough. If you're going to move your organization's budget from $750,000 to $2.5 million, or if you, from whatever you're starting at to your end goal, you have to have a plan in place. You just can't simply, you can't wing it. So I would say you really have to invest the time that it takes in planning. You really cannot afford not to plan. And I know you're in the trenches. I know you're doing the day-to-day work and you're like, when do I have time to plan? I'm always putting out fires. I'm always doing this. So who has time to plan? Well, again, if you remember at the top, assess where you're at. And if you can't say yes to those, then you're not ready for planning. But if you can say yes, or if you're a new organization just starting out, you don't want to be winging it just starting out. Take the time to plan up front. I cannot stress this enough. I cannot stress that strategic planning was one of the key components to my success of increasing my budget and getting my board engaged. And I know that this track record works because the organization went from $750,000 to $2.5 million in an 8-year period. Our strategic plan was, we started out with an 18-month strategic plan. Someone's asked me that before, how many years or what's the length of the strategic plan? Well, we start out with an 18-month strategic plan. And then from an 18-month, we moved into a 5-year strategic plan. So I would say a minimum of 18 months, maximum of 5 years. You should be looking at this about every 5 years. And don't put it on the shelf. It's a living, breathing document that you take down and that you refer to quite often. So I cannot stress that enough. So thank you for attending my webinar. If you're interested in going deeper into this and would like to explore how this all relates to you, book a call with me at supportingworldhope.as.me. On the call, we can discuss how to get started with strategic planning, how to engage stakeholders, and how to engage stakeholders in the strategic planning process. That was actually quite fun for me, involving the board, the staff, the community members, the people that we serve in that strategic planning process. So I will say questions. If you have questions, feel free to type them and I will get back to them. I also ask a favor of you. I ask that you follow me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. You can follow me at Supporting World Hope and on Instagram at The Nonprofit Expert. So you can also find me and these recordings on www.supportingworldhope.com. And that is my time for today. I hope this was valuable for you. Thank you.